Welcome to the Enchanted Earth podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own.
Welcome, everybody. Today we have with us Sadie Beyl, and let me tell you a little bit about Sadie. Sadie Beyl is the founder of From Mourning to Light, a sacred space that she has created to support those who have experienced the loss of a loved one. She offers a 10-week spiritual transformation course, angel card readings, and past life readings, as well as various spiritual workshops. Her full bio and website is below. So welcome, Sadie, to the Enchanted Earth.
Hello, and thank you, Maureen. Thank you for inviting me to be on the podcast.
I'm so excited to speak with people that are all over the world. So can you tell us a little bit about where you're located?
Okay, so I'm in Italy at the moment. I was born in London. I lived most of my life in South Africa. I'm an architect. I practiced architecture in Cape Town. And after my husband died, I made this very rash decision to come to Italy to just see what it would be like. And here I still am after 6 years.
Wonderful. So you're around Milan, I believe?
Oh, no, it's near Rome. So if you picture a map of Italy, I'm towards the east coast, in line with Rome. And there are a lot of mountain ranges and national parks. I live in a very green part of Italy. In fact, it's called the Green Heart of Europe.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So being on this podcast, agreeing to be on this podcast, I know nature is a really important part of kind of your spiritual journey or awakening in life. Can you share a little bit about an experience that you've had with nature that perhaps changed your perspective of our reality or something like that?
Okay, I can. I've got several. But the most recent is my husband passed away very suddenly in a motorcycle accident, and I was following in the car behind. So I didn't actually witness the accident, but I arrived seconds after it had happened. And I was suffering from PTSD. I went to see a psychotherapist, but I was feeling the grief in my body. The PTSD was not in my brain. It wasn't my thinking process. It was spiritual, I suppose I could say. So I went to see a psychotherapist thinking she would be able to help me. And no. Maybe psychotherapists can help other people, but what I was going through, she couldn't touch sides except for one thing. She said, get out into nature as much as you can. That's the one thing. In fact, it's the only thing I remember her saying from the whole session. And I took her advice to heart. And that's where my healing began.
Wow. It's amazing how traditional psychotherapy is so ill-equipped to deal with deep spiritual transformation. So obviously that experience has helped move you through the grief process, which brings you to helping people today with their grief, which is just so lovely. Can you first share a particular experience when you were out in nature that really opened up your heart or moved into your body in some way?
I can. So it started off me with this urgency that I need to get into nature. And I was staying with a friend at the time, and there's a beautiful nature reserve a few blocks away from their house, my friend's house. And you can't, not anyone can go there. You need to be a member. So luckily she worked there and she got a card for me so I could go in. And it's on the side of a mountain. It has views of the sea and has the most exotic birds there with long tails. I can't think of what they're called now. But I would see these birds every single time I went there. That's the only bird I saw when I was there. So I thought it was the only species of bird in this park. And as I said, the grief was in my body. So my friend suggested I go for a Reiki session to see if that would help me balance how out of body I was feeling in my grief. And in the Reiki session, the lady conducting the Reiki said to me, I'm not a channel. I only do Reiki. But Paul's guides are here. Paul is my husband's name, the one who passed away. And she said, they're saying that he's sending you signs. Are you seeing them? So I said, well, I don't know. You'd have to be able to talk specific. And she said, he's sending you birds. The birds, 3 birds. They've got long tails, she said. I was like, oh. And then when I spoke to my friend about this experience afterwards, she said, oh, what kind of birds? Because they're these birds, those birds. And she listed a whole host of different species of birds in this park. I said to her, no, there's only one species I've seen. It's this bird. It was because my husband was sending them to me.
Oh, wow. That is so amazing. And it just reminds me of how often I hear people when they're dealing with grief and they go out into nature, they often attribute a particular bird that shows up that gives them that feeling that it's their loved one coming to, I guess, calm them and connect with them. And I typically hear cardinals or hummingbirds, or, of course, too. It is amazing how these winged birds are probably for millennia have been associated with messages from the gods and messages from the other side.
I think because animals are not distracted like humans, and I don't think they live in their brains like we do. I think they work purely on instinct and intuition. I think spirit, when it comes, can conduct them with their cooperation. So when I came to Italy, I had a huge problem because there weren't those birds. They totally different species of birds here.
Because this was in South Africa when it occurred. Okay.
Yeah. So coming to Italy was a new start for me to see what I want to do with my life without my husband. So I went to a place that my husband and I had been to before in Italy, and I spent ages there walking around. I didn't see any birds whatsoever, and I was quite crushed. I'd asked for a sign, and nothing, not one single bird. And I remember feeling so distressed, thinking, okay, I've lost connection. And I got into my car, and as I was pulling out, 3 birds suddenly flew, like directly across the windscreen of the car, 3 in succession. And I just burst into tears.
I think that is so interesting, this concept of learning the names of species and feeling like you're closer to them if you can name them. And I really wonder about that, because those are just labels that we've given to them. In a way, it's sweet not to box them into some kind of scientific name that we ascribe to them.
I agree. There's swifts or swallows here, lots of them, because I live on the side of a mountain, a very steep mountain. So because it's so steep, you're almost up in the air with the birds. So you're eye level with them as they fly through. And they're constantly swifts in the summer, or swallows, I'm not sure which one they are, flying between the buildings. Quickly, very quickly. I think I'd like to call them swifts, actually, because they're like darts. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I want to talk about the trees, Maureen. The trees were a huge part of my healing. So from the Reiki sessions, Paul's guide spoke to the Reiki lady, and they said to her, every time I went for a Reiki session, they had a message for me. And she kept saying to me, the channel, I'm not a psychic medium, but they keep giving me these messages for you. So they said, tell Sadie she needs to go to the forests. So in South Africa, there are indigenous forests. It's much smaller than it used to be. In fact, it's protected now, called the Knysna Forests. And it has some very huge old trees in it that have been preserved. And when she said go to the forests, I knew that was where she meant. So I just booked a B&B and went. Oh, and she said, you'll meet someone there. So I just booked a B&B, climbed in my car, took a road trip, went to the forests, and I made a point of going to 100 trees. And what a healing experience that was. Because Maureen, trees don't move, even the smaller ones. Or you can lean your whole body weight into a small tree, and it's really solid. And the experiences I started to get when I hugged trees was like a whooshing feeling, almost like time lost its meaning. And I would just feel myself just connecting to the energy of the tree. And then I would feel this incredible calm, silent, wise, timelessness. It was incredible. So if anyone listening to this podcast is going through a hard time and you're seeking peace immediately, you haven't got time to go meditate for 40 minutes to try and calm your monkey mind, just go hug a tree.
Always curious, and my curious mind makes me think of how you approached that tree or the trees, or even jumping in your car and going to the trees. How would you say you approach that within your body, within your heart?
That's a very good question, Maureen. I need to think about it a little bit. I intuitively knew nature was going to help me to heal. I just knew. And that has come from my journey. For example, I've always wanted to be able to speak to the animals. So Dr. Dolittle and I'll call him San Francesco, St. Francis, those stories always beguiled me as a child. I was like, yes, I want to speak to the animals. And one day I went to a new friend's house. We just met. She'd invited us to come for dinner. And I always go and stroke people's pets. I love pets. And I was stroking her cat. And her cat clearly said to me, where is my mother? So I was stroking this cat. And I said to the lady whose cat it was, I said, she's asked me where her mother is. And she nearly dropped the plate she was holding. She said to me, oh, that's not my cat. We actually adopted them from a family who were going overseas, who were immigrating. And there was actually this cat and her mother. But the mother was quite old already. So the people who were immigrating had her put down before they left. And this cat, just one day her mom was there. The next thing, her whole family had left her with strangers, and her mom was gone. So I communicated to the cat, telepathically, that her mom wasn't alive anymore. And a few days later, that lady phoned me and said, the cat's disappeared. She's left us. Oh, heartbreaking.
Wow.
But that was my first clear sign that I could communicate with the animals. And I didn't even know it was happening. It just happened.
Wow. So Sadie, at what point did this occur?
Quite a few years before my husband died. Quite a few years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So this was when you were in South Africa still, and you were working as an architect. Yeah, a lot of us have been doing our spiritual work for our entire lives. Some people a little bit more recently awakening to that aspect of their soul. Share with me a little bit about your spiritual journey and when did that kind of awaken within you?
Okay. I started meditating in my 20s, late 20s. And I was always interested in reading about angels, very beguiled with angels. But it all started when I was a child and I had a teddy bear. This is a fascinating story. So this teddy bear was my friend. My teddy bear was alive. It was a real person to me as a child. In fact, I remember having a fit one day when I couldn't find my teddy bear. I was hysterical. Life just had no meaning without this teddy bear in my life. And then as I grew older, slowly but surely, the teddy bear wasn't that important anymore because you become a teenager and other things come in. And looking back, my teddy bear was embodying my guardian angel because I had a very traumatic childhood. So my teddy bear, my guardian angel was in my teddy bear to just be a support for me, to always be there. And then one thing led to another, and I discovered I could do past life regressions totally by accident, I have to tell you. Everything's happened, came to me at the right time. And I also got the knowing because I'm clairsentient and clear. I can't even think what they're all called, but I just know things.
So I love past life regression is just amazing to help us see with greater clarity from a higher perch, talking about birds, looking down and what's going on in our lives, because we can get so enmeshed in the emotions of what's going on. Do you have any other stories in nature that you can share about shifting your perspective of something or opening you in some way?
I want to bring people's attention to something through the story. So I came to Italy, I've met a new man, I've since married him, so I'm remarried. But just after COVID ended, finally we could go outdoors and become free again. And there's a beautiful forest, a few kilometers from where we live. And I was just aching to go into this forest. I just wanted to go there and connect with nature again. We've been locked in our houses for how long? So off we go, and this place is magical. If you could think of a fairy tale forest, this is it. With beautiful trees on the slope, with gnarled roots and big boulders with moss, beautiful bright green moss growing on them. It really is a magical place. And so I decided I wanted to connect into the spirit of the place, the nature. So my husband went off to do whatever he was doing. And I said to him, just give me a few minutes. So I chose a beautiful, perfect seat, rock with moss on it. And I sat down on it and I closed my eyes and I took a breath in to connect. And I saw this elf pop up in my mind's eye with huge, shocked eyes because I'd sat on him. And I'd never seen an elf in my life before. But he was jumping up and down, so shocked.
Was he upset?
He was just in shock, like he hadn't expected someone to come and sit on him while he was sitting on his rock. So I didn't ask permission. I wasn't even aware that there might be a being on that rock. So the cautionary tale here is just always be so respectful. Don't just go plunk yourself down on a rock. Don't be like me.
That
So I could see he was agitated. So I just remained calm and I said to him, "What's your name?" And then he was shocked all over again that I could talk to him. So I was saying it telepathically. "Your name?" So he said, "Idris," and started laughing, and he got very skittish and started running away. I said, "Hello, Idris." And that was the extent of the connection with him. I think he was just too shocked.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, like all beings, there's different personalities and emotions, and it's really magical talking about it, the enchanted earth. But your words of wisdom actually mimic discussion that I had a couple of weeks ago with someone else talking about he's a treehouse builder. And years ago when he brought himself up into this tree, really tall tree, and he's, I don't know, 60 feet up in the air, he got a real sense that the tree was very tense and was not happy that he was in the tree. And he said that they had all sorts of problems with the rigging and getting things together. But as they ascended the tree and he relaxed into this amazing beauty of the tree, and his demeanor changed. He was full of gratitude, and I'm sure approaching the tree with more of an open heart. And then suddenly the energy of the whole tree shifted, and it was welcoming and inviting and collaborating. It's our expression of intention and asking for permission and acknowledging this being. I think that is such an important lesson that we have. It's something that my husband is incorporated into pruning the shrubs. It's not just going out and saying, I have time today, I'm going to do it, and just do it. He actually asks permission. He gives his intention, he gets a feel, and then he's okay and goes along his chores. But it is so important to remember to acknowledge the presence of nature beings and giving the respect that we all want to have in our relationships.
I love that. My husband, too, my current husband, he's a jack of all trades. He's painted all these paintings behind him, so he's a very artistic being. But his family are farmers. They're subsistence farmers. And a lot of Italians in small towns own small holdings. So they have a grove of olive trees, and he prunes olive trees. And the one day I told him a story about how somebody was asking a psychic medium why this tree had fallen on their car. And I'm not sure if the person in the car died or not. I can't remember the full story, but the answer was this person had cut down a tree without permission. And this was a warning to them. So trees don't fall onto houses or cars randomly by accident.
Oh.
It's a big message to the person who's affected by this accident.
Yes, and I have a brief story I'll share here, which is the opposite of that. So we built a beautiful stone cairn in our garden. It's right on the edge of our house. And our house is surrounded probably by 40 huge oak and pine and maple trees.
Beautiful.
Some of them are toward the end of their life. It's just everything has a life cycle. And it's really hard because they're all around the same size, and it's really sad to consider this property without them. But we had a surprising tropical storm come through with 50-mile-an-hour winds, and I witnessed this tree fall across our driveway. It missed 2 cars, and it just grazed the corner of our house, and it fell onto our front lawn. So this, I don't know, 70, 80-foot tree just whoosh, and it caused little damage, little harm, pretty remarkably. So there you go. We're extremely conscious of the nature spirit on our land, and we're always giving honor and respect and reverence. We're doing offerings all the time. So we were lucky. That tree totally missed everything. Pretty remarkable.
That tree planned it, definitely planned it. I've no doubt in my mind. And then I've got one more tree story, which is fascinating. So in my forest trip, driving around the forest, I hadn't hugged any trees the one day, and I was driving along and I saw a grove of beautiful trees. So there was the road I was on in a very remote area, a field of very high shrubs and grass, and then this grove of trees in the distance. And I just felt compelled to stop here. So I did. I stopped, pulled over, jumped out of my car. It was quite cold and windy, but I was still so compelled. So I ran across the field, and one of the trees on the outskirts, I was just so drawn to it. I can't explain the magnetism. And a big tree, say you throw your arms around it, you can't. You're just against the tree, in reality. So I did that. I went against the tree, and I always rest my third eye on the bark. So I gently rest my third eye. And at first I was quite scared of spiders or ants crawling on me, but that never seemed to happen for whatever reason. And so I just breathed in to feel that rush of timelessness, that feeling I always feel. And that just moved up into this beautiful white being, like an angel in the tree. Just this incredible white, loving, calm presence. It was so beautiful. I've no idea how long I've just stayed there, just being in the presence of this angel, a tree angel. I'd never heard of tree angels before.
Wow. It was the elevated consciousness of this tree. There's trees by me, and I see one that I call the grandfather tree, and he told me his name was Olaf. So I've got Olaf, and then I have the grandmother tree on the other side, other beautiful ancient tree. I did not get a name for her, but she was always the grandmother. But yeah, these trees have personalities just like animals do. They have personalities, they have presence, they have consciousness.
So it started with nature, Maureen, and you say they have consciousness, but every inanimate object, your chairs, your blankets, your furniture, your objects, your jewelry, everything is carrying consciousness. It's made out of the energy that we're made out of. It's just less animate than we are. That's all. It's the same stuff.
Yes, I practice feng shui, and I've been teaching it for probably 15 years. And that is one of the things in feng shui that I love, is the idea that everything has consciousness, everything carries qi, which is consciousness. And some will vibrate at a higher level of consciousness than others. And I've always felt that things that were manufactured in maybe a country that they're not treating their employees well has a lower level of consciousness, where something that was made with by hand with love has a higher level of consciousness. But yes, everything is animate.
Okay, so to take that even further, on my spiritual journey, I joined a meditation group. That's why I host a meditation group now, is because it really helped me to stay connected and grow spiritually, to be in this meditation group. So now that's what I'd like to bring to the world, apart from all the other things I do. And in that journey, we had a meditation where this concept had been introduced. I'd never thought of it before in that way. But it was introduced in that consciousness is love.
Mm.
And so sitting in my car, just quietly contemplating that everything is love and love is everything. And I was at a traffic light that was red, and it was a particularly long one. So I knew I was there for the duration. There are just those that are so ridiculously long. So I was just gazing at the traffic lights, thinking, there's no need to be frustrated. I'm here. Let me just be calm. And I was gazing at the red light. And then I felt this love radiating from the traffic light.
Wow.
And then I knew without a shadow of a doubt, everything is conscious, because it was proved to me.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is beautiful. It just reminds us, because we have to be reminded constantly when we step out of our chatter in our minds and we just allow ourselves to be present and mindful and just rest in that stillness. Magic is around us everywhere.
I think the key was I just surrendered. I didn't get impatient. I didn't think, oh, no, I got caught by this light that I know is so long. I switched it. I thought, oh, it's an opportunity to just connect.
It's a gift. It's shifting our perspective. Yes.
And the traffic light, for whatever reason, decided to convey it to me.
Wow. Yeah, wonderful. That's great. I love that. I love that.
I hope your audience is open-minded, because the things I talk about are really out there.
Oh, we do talk a lot of very out there things in this, so absolutely.
Okay, good.
Beautiful. I love to push the boundaries because they need to be pushed. And right now, I feel like anyone watching, listening, needs to hear these experiences, because I do believe many of us, if not all of us, have had inexplicable things that have occurred in our life, experiences, episodes, and it's a matter of how we think about them, or we push them back and say, no, that it didn't happen that way. And I think a lot of people have done that. But I'm very grateful that those stories are still there. They can be sparked at any moment. So hearing these seemingly very unusual, odd stories of other people can spark that memory and then bring it to consciousness.
The two things I'd like to say into that, Maureen. The one is, don't dismiss things as your imagination. Your imagination is probably more real than anything going on in your world. And I extend that to messages from your loved ones. If you have a slight inkling your loved one may have left this feather for you, the coin, the birds that fly by that you see constantly, the butterflies, whatever it may be, just trust it. and say thank you, show me more. Okay, I've got one story about a butterfly.
Oh, yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, so this starts way back when I married my first husband, the one who passed away 6 years ago. My mom lived in another city, and I called her up and I said, okay, this is the plan for the wedding, make sure you book time off from work, etc., etc. And then the conversations turned to what she was going to wear. She was so excited. She said, no, I'm going to wear leopard print. And I was like, okay, all right, are you sure? And it was a big thing for me. I cried. I said to my husband, how could you wear leopard print to my wedding? I was horrified. That was a big thing. And I don't think she knew. When I eventually saw her outfit, it wasn't as horrific as I'd imagined. And so it was okay in the end. But I really had a moment, I have to tell you. And she gave me away because my father had passed away. So my mom was up front and center in all the photographs. So, cut a long story short, she passed away in August. And I think a day or two after she passed, I was out on my balcony and I saw this butterfly. And it was very interesting. It was a different color. It was fascinating. The closer it came, in fact, it flew across my vision to make sure I didn't miss it. And it landed on the railing in front of me, and it had white and black and orange. It's the most unusual butterfly I've ever seen. I was looking at it thinking, wow, what a crazy looking butterfly. And my mom's voice came into my head and she said, Sadie, this is the closest I could find to a leopard print butterfly.
Oh my gosh, that is precious. Oh, that is so wonderful. Oh.
I said to her, Mom, don't you move. I'm going to get my phone. I need a photo of you. And I went back and I took a photo. And then the butterfly flew off.
Yes. We can get so much feeling of peace and joy if we just rest into belief. This is here for us to embrace. And some people I speak with, there's just such a strong resistance to it. They say, oh, I've had this experience. And yes, I thought, wow, this is my mother. And then, yeah.
It couldn't have been, yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if it could be several different reasons why they say that. It could be that they personally don't think that it is, but I don't think that. I think there's something in them because they brought it up. So it's alive within them that the possibility is there. I think another reason might be that they don't want to look like a kook. And they spontaneously shared this memory, and then they're like, oh, I've got to make sure they don't think I'm a kook. So they just brush it off. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest lessons grief taught me was being authentic. So what I mean by that is, it's okay if people look at you sideways or take a step back. I've been to social gatherings and met people for the first time and they ask me what I do. And before I would read the room and just say, oh, I'm an architect and leave it at that. But I don't practice architecture anymore. And I really fully work in the spiritual realm. And so I just decided one day I'm going to own that. It's their problem if they can't handle it.
Yeah.
Their loss, actually, if they're not curious.
Yes. And I think, like you said, when you read the room, you used to figure out what you were going to say. But sometimes we're wrong, because even though someone may have that demeanor of being very reserved and in their minds, in their rational brain, there might be an opening that you can help facilitate by sharing your truth.
Even if it's on a subconscious level for them. So, yeah, the one time I could just see this person wanted to connect and network. And so I put it out there, and it was almost like I dropped a lead bomb. Wink. Because in the corporate world, where do you go with the fairies and the elves and the mossy rocks and the angel card readings and the past life regressions? It's like we in reality, and then there's an alternate reality, and they're not quite sure how to connect them.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see more and more people that are in like the corporate world embrace their other side, embrace their intuition, embrace the feminine, more of soul work. But it's a big, I think, a reach for many people. Or they do it on the side. They do it so no one else has any inkling of that side of their life. But that has to break through. We have to be more authentic. Absolutely. I'm just wanting to ask if there's anything that you would love to share as we wrap up, or any maybe something you want to reemphasize before we end here.
I think the biggest message that I'd like people to know from this exchange that we've had is that I've said it before, trust your imagination, pay attention to your dreams, and just connect with nature, even if you don't feel peace or the wishing feeling, or even if you don't see the elves or the angels, just trust that it's healing you. Because nature really did heal me. It did it on such a subtle level that I can't concretely tell you how it healed, except to say, anecdotally, I felt so much better each time I connected. It helped me to journey with my grief and be okay and come through the other side sane. Because we do, like in corporate especially, people are breaking down. They hate their jobs. They don't want to wake up in the morning. They can't fall asleep at night for all the things they're worrying about. I mean, the only way you can break that pattern is to find something that's going to bring you peace. And I think the easiest way you're going to do that is just make a concerted effort to get out there and connect with nature. It will heal you. I can't emphasize it enough. And it sounds so intangible and so airy-fairy, but I've never felt anything so real in my life.
Yes. As you and I both are aware and have done some work with biophilic design, we know that there's lots of statistics to calm the rational mind on how nature influences our physical body. But there is that kind of intangible heart. Somehow we're embraced, we're bathed in this beautiful presence of nature and nature beings. Yeah.
I love the way you describe it. You said it perfectly.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today with me, Sadie. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Maureen, for hosting.
And please, everybody who is watching, if you enjoyed this, please comment. We would love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe and share with others. And you will see all of the fuller bio and website that you can contact Sadie if you're interested in doing some beautiful work with her. So thank you again, Sadie.
Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Comment below, share, and most of all, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll hear when we publish another inspiring episode. You can visit us at luminous-spaces.com for more information on our online courses, retreats, and offerings. Thank you and have a magical day.